Bitch, don't kill my vibe. I can feel your energy from 2 planets away. I got my drink, I would share it, but today I'm going. Okay, hello, everybody. The Objective Music Report, the only source of objectively correct music criticism on the entire internet. The entire internet. And today I'm going to be talking about arguably like the largest album event of the year. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the best album of the year, but I think in terms of hype and, maybe not cultural significance, but discourse significance. Probably the biggest album event of the year, as of I'm sure you're aware if you're, clicking on this review. But this isn't really a review video. It is a video that includes a review, but I think the review is going to be more of a conduit to look at this larger topic that has influenced my listening to the album. And I guess just to get that out of the way, I'm going to show you my entire review right here. So, the review is, because the tagline, there's a lot of impressive songs here, especially towards the end, but I feel as the underlying listening experience suffers from a lack of cohesion in terms of both aesthetics and execution. I'm sure that makes sense to you. I just feel like maybe narratively, I believe there's like not like a A to B to C D, but in terms of narratively, there's underlying themes and ideas and sort of progressions that occur throughout the record, and I think those are impressive. I think those are the best part. But I think in terms of maybe delivery is a good term for it, but just the underlying execution and the underlying pacing of the record, I think there are a lot of issues there. um, I think also the nature, and I say this at the bottom here, a project like this can't really be hit or miss because when you have something like this that's so grand and conceptualized, when there are moments that don't still stun you, when there are moments that don't fit neatly into this underlying vision, that takes away, like it feels like a filler episode in a TV show that's supposed to be super tight. Like it's just sort of grabbing you away from the heart of the matter, is distracting you, and it's really hurting the underlying experience of listening to the album. But I think at the end of the day, though, there's still really impressive raps. There's really impressive production. There's really interesting themes and moments, and just sort of things that just shock you and surprise you. But that's not really what I'm talking about today, because I think underlying this review, it's a good album. 7 out of 10. I'd probably say lower 7 out of 10 maybe than like a higher, but very impressive. I have strict standards, and this is good. This is a good result. I mean, most albums are this is probably above average, I'd say. But of course, we have to look at a greater context to understand this. So, the meta review. Kendrick Lamar, I'm sure as you're aware, is probably the most celebrated rapper of the last decade, arguably the last 2 decades, if we're being honest. And clearly the longest hiatus he's ever had since he became, a major hip-hop figure. And not only that, but his last 3 albums have all been like instant cult classics, instantly respected, critically acclaimed, the whole 9 yards. I mean, some people, obviously, some people aren't going to love everything, and I think Damn was like a more contentious album from him, especially after, his like universally like beloved masterpiece album of the decade sort of material with T-Pap. But and there's no worries going into this album. It wasn't going to be another home run, it wasn't going to like immediately grab the attention, and to an extent it did. Lots of outlets gave this, really high scores. It's still doing really well in Metacritic, although it has fallen since like first impression reviews, which were more optimistic than later reviews. But I mean, there's no like reason to believe this wasn't going to be like, there wasn't like a warning sign before. And so, as a fan, as a consumer, when this album got announced, you basically knew 2 things. It's coming from Kendrick, this eccentric, musical genius, and it has been 5 years since Damn. So that's kind of where the problem starts to arise. So the meta review. A great rapper, known for expressive and grandiose concept albums, he's going to come up with a new album after 5 years. And, I mean, you kind of implicitly know what the assumption is. You think, oh, shoot, this is just like, Stevie Wonder taking a 3-year break, pouring 3 years into, songs in the key of life, like his longest break ever, but he comes back with, his greatest album yet, He's taking this, massive... he's doing with an album that's like so large, he has to adjust, and that's why he's taking so long. I mean, now we know due to like lyrics on the album that he actually, I just had a multiple years where he just didn't have the inspiration, writer's block, obviously. But when you're when you're a big fan of Kendrick's music, and I believe because Kendrick is so consistent, although maybe a hip hop figure that I think is also, hit the same highs as Kendrick, someone like Kanye. Kanye is, of course, a figure whose personal life is, known for being very distracting, and, he has his issues with like mental health. Those sorts of things, could seem to be easily distracted from his music. But Kendrick, when he goes off the radar, you're not anticipating that to mean like, oh, he's having like a personal struggle, or, you have no idea what's going on. You assume like it's pretty solidly the same thing he was doing 5 years ago when he was off the radar, coming out with workshopping a new album in the studio every day, blah, blah, blah. This is at least how you conceptualize it. And so when Kendrick, doesn't release an album for 5 years, you don't assume like, oh, he's going through some shit, You assume like, no, he's hard at work, working on his next masterpiece record, it's going to shift the entire hip-hop paradigm. Everyone's going to be talking about this album for years. And so, at least for me, and I'm sure plenty of other listeners, you set up these extreme expectations that aren't like reasonable, maybe not even not reasonable, but not like, you're setting yourself up for failure in a sense. Now we're wondering, I guess the problem is the expectations. So what is the problem with our expectations? And I think there is a problem because they sort of interfere not only with like us able to look at an album like objectively, like if I'm obscured by so much hype that I'm like, oh yeah, there's no flaws here, this is a perfect masterpiece, I'm sure everything, every concern I have is like, just a problem with me, and like I'll understand it in 2 years, blah blah blah. I don't think that's even the main problem, but I think that is, a way in hype and expectations can play into it. But I think it just makes for worse experiences overall. Because the thing is, even when an expectation is met, the expectation, wasn't enjoyable going up to the event. I know some people like say like, oh, it's more exciting to wait for, something come in the mail than, to actually even have it. And that's just not true for me. Like it's stressful. It's like, I get like anxious every day thinking about it. And like, you might say like, oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't think excitement is like a particularly good emotion. I don't know. Maybe I'm unique for that, but I don't really think so. And I think especially when, you're dealing with something like an album where you don't know if you're going to end up liking it. You could like your favorite artist could release a new album and, could check all the boxes, but maybe, you turn it on and like, oh, I just didn't jive with this. I didn't like it. Usually if you order a burger from like your favorite restaurant, like you've had that same burger 15 times, like the excitement there, or maybe I should say something like, maybe you order, maybe not a video game, maybe I say a t-shirt here on the slideshow. You know exactly what you're getting, but that's not really possible with music. So you're always sort of walking away disappointed, or you're walking away satisfied, after, being anxious for months over what the event was going to be. And so, even when your expectations are exceeded, like not only is like you're kind of playing with fire, because that feels like it's much more rare for your expectations to be succeeded, but you're not really the win. If your expectations would have been lower, you would have had an even bigger win, It's like saying like, oh, I thought this album was going to be like a 9.8 out of 10, but it was a 9.9, like, well, what if I thought this album was going to be a 7 out of 10? Then it's like, an even bigger jump. So I guess my case here is the solution should be, you want to set your expectations as low as you possibly can without, dissuading yourself from listening to the album. So like maybe set your expectations like a 5.1. So like, oh, I'll still listen to it, but, I'm not expecting anything great. But obviously, you think about that for more than 5 seconds, it's kind of a ridiculous premise. You can't like just pick to have a low expectation. You can't, in the same way you can't, tell someone, oh yeah, you should enjoy eating pickles, or like, oh, you should, stop loving your child, I say here. Something you can do, but like, it's not going to have any result. Like I can say like, oh, I'm going to lower my expectations. But like I'd have to condition myself or, work very hard at trying to lower those expectations if I ever wanted to have any success in that department. And I think that's kind of where the issues lie with this. What I'm advocating for is essentially, it's not like a sustainable or, possible thing for humans to even do. It's not, it's like outside of the purview of like normal human action. It's like be as pessimistic as possible, but, not because the world is actually bad, but because you just want to have your expectations always exceeded. And that just doesn't seem like a way people actually live. I mean, think of, if you think every album's going to be a 5.1, then eventually, once you're always making yourself happier and happier and happier. Like, oh, I was surprised, that was awesome. Like, it's not possible. Like, after enough of these events, you're going to be like, what? Maybe the average album is still a 5.1, even though I've been impressed all these times. Like, obviously, that's not going to occur. You're going to condition yourself out of that eventually. And I think my problem is, I think the reason I'm concerned with this just problem overall with expectations is because Mr. Morale is a good album. It's a good album. It's like probably going to be, maybe not the top of my list for the end of the year, obviously, but like, it's going to be like a consideration. I might grow around to it. There's songs I enjoy in here that I'm glad to have. But it feels disappointing because, I was thinking like, oh, we have this new Kendrick album. It's going to be better than T-Pab. It's going to be, this masterpiece that blows the top off. Everyone's going to like, we're going to bring a new center to rap. Like rap is going to innovate, and we're not going to be able to recognize things from before and after. But like, obviously that didn't happen. At least not yet. I don't know, maybe. But when you set your expectations that high, you're inevitably going to be disappointed. And I'm just thinking, what do I do? What do I do in the future to not let this happen to me? But I don't know if that's really possible. I think like this, though. I believe that I'm concerned with sort of expectations in this way, and I believe that I want to remedy my expectations, because in the ways I've sort of operated in discovering new music, it's always like I hear, like, I read online, like, oh, this is an interesting album, or, I see, like, a review that, like, gives it a high score, or I see, like, a list that says, like, oh, the third best album of, the decade or something like that. Like, I'll just, like, sort of, like, curiously see this, and, like, it's not like it's, like, all praise, or, like, something I'll, like, it's not like, I'm hearing it from, someone who I know has the exact same taste as me, and I know I'm going to be immediately satisfied and not, question this at all. But it's like, it's like more like curiosity, like, oh, wonder if this is, like, as good as people say it is. It's not this instance of, like, I know this is going to be good, and I am, putting my entire self-worth on me enjoying this. And so I think when you have a project that is about to be teased, and there's no word of mouth surrounding it, all you have to go off of is your expectations. And I think your expectations are going to be set higher. If I hear, like, a critic, even a critic I respect, give a high score, I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to love it. But, when my favorite artist comes out with an album, like, that's different. There's a different connection there. And you're not going to, like, suspect, oh, this is going to be the first time, they strike out. Like, obviously that's not in your mind. So I think that's kind of the issue there with expectations rather than, hearing from other people or hearing other perspectives. But I also believe that my goal to do this stems from, like, a sort of desire to view art from this standpoint of, I'm not looking at it. I don't want my hype to shroud me enjoying the album. So it's not that it's gonna, like, make me think, like, oh, this is a masterpiece, or oh, this is, my expectations are slightly, not held, and so, I give it like a 4 out of 10. But I think it sort of does shroud it in the sense I'm trying to look at this project. I'm trying to consume it, without any distractions. And at the same time, I have this large personal investment, and I have these expectations. They're going to harm the actual listening to this record. I mean, eventually, I think these become less and less figures as you're more accustomed to it. You've heard it enough and enough. Like, those initial listens and those initial first impressions, which I think will affect those future listenings, are immediately, like, tainted. And I think this sort of nature of hype is what is the real insidious problem that I'm trying to alleviate. But I think, this is just a me problem at the end of the day. I think, you can love hype. You can, appreciate how it, might make it more exciting or more dynamic to listen to. Or, you can, not, like, read up or set your expectations too high, like I said, maybe just naturally. But I think this is just sort of, at the end of the day, my opinion on this opinion that you should lower your expectations. And I think, whatever your opinion or perspective on that is, it's totally valid, especially for you. Not because I'm the Objective Music Report, and all my opinions are objectively because of the truth. And anyways, this is the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. My next video is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely ambitious. I'm going to be talking about my top 100 albums of all time. And, of course, because it's my top 100 albums, it's going to be the top 100 albums of all time objectively. So make sure you check out that so you can know exactly what your taste should be. I'm expecting everyone, to release their top 100 albums list after watching my video, and they're going to be exactly like mine. So anyways, toodaloo. Hope you had a good watching experience. Shit.